In life, there will always be moments where you encounter people who look at you and pretend, as though your presence makes no difference, as though your voice does not carry, as though your existence is not significant enough to shift the energy of a room. You will meet people who will act like your contributions mean nothing, who will walk past your kindness with no acknowledgement, and who will shrug at your loyalty as if it were merely ordinary. Yet you and I know that silence is not emptiness. It is a language of its own. When you choose to withhold your words, when you choose to stop pouring into a space that does not honor you, the silence begins to echo louder than the noise of any conversation. It begins to create a void that can no longer be ignored, and even the one who once dismissed you begins to feel that absence like a weight pressing down on them, because silence is the kind of truth that forces reflection. You see, people often act unbothered. They wear confidence like a mask, and they project indifference as though they are unshaken by your absence. But deep down, there is no human soul that does not crave connection, no heart that does not notice when something warm is suddenly cold, no spirit that does not bend when a familiar light goes dim. And this is why it is important for you to understand your worth. It is important for you to recognize that even when someone acts like you don't matter, the truth is, you matter more than they will ever admit out loud. They feel your silence in ways they cannot show. They replay your words in moments when they are alone. They recall the times you were present even when they never said thank you. And this is where your strength lies, in the ability to step back without losing yourself, to hold back without bitterness, and to know that you are valued even in the silence. Too often we waste time chasing validation from people who already know our value but are too afraid, too broken, or too distracted to acknowledge. They may ignore you because admitting your importance would mean admitting their own shortcomings. They may dismiss you because honoring you would require humility they are not yet ready to embrace. But let me remind you today, your worth is not tied to their recognition. Your power is not diminished because someone else pretends not to see it. The sun does not stop shining because a few choose to close their curtains. The ocean does not cease to roar because some decide to wear noise-canceling headphones. And your light does not lose its brilliance because someone else acts blind. When they act like you don't matter, understand that it is not a reflection of your value but rather a reflection of their capacity to see. And silence, my dear friend, is not weakness. Silence is the pause before the thunder. Silence is the test that measures who notices when the music stops. Silence is the weight that unsettles the pretender and makes them restless at night, wondering why they feel something missing, why their thoughts are no longer steady, why their heart seems heavier, even though nothing visible has changed. Your silence speaks. It says, I will not beg to be seen. It says, I refuse to shrink to fit your blindness. It says, I know my value, and I will not waste it in a place where it is overlooked. And in that silence, those who once acted indifferent will find themselves haunted by the absence of your presence, because they cannot escape the truth of what they once had and failed to honor. Life is too short to keep explaining yourself to people who are determined not to understand you. It is too precious to keep watering soil that has no intention of growing with you. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is step back, not in anger, not in bitterness, but in quiet assurance that you matter, and that your worth does not decrease because someone is too blind to recognize it. The silence you create will speak volumes. It will force them to confront the reality of their choices. It will echo in their minds long after you have left the room. They will feel it in the moments when they reach for the phone and remember you are no longer there to answer. They will feel it when they laugh and realize the laughter is hollow without your presence. They will feel it in their quiet nights when the memory of your kindness becomes louder than the noise of their distractions. And though they may never say it, though they may never admit it, they feel your silence deep. But the message today is not about them, it is about you. It is about choosing not to waste your energy trying to prove your importance to anyone. You are already important, you are already valuable. Your existence is already purposeful. You don't need to shout it from rooftops. You don't need to beg for applause. And you don't need to fight to stay where you are not wanted. Instead, focus on the places where your presence is celebrated, where your voice is not just heard but honored, where your efforts are not just noticed but appreciated. Focus on growing, on thriving, on building yourself so strong that the next time someone acts like you don't matter, you smile and remember that their perception does not define your reality. There is something liberating about walking away from spaces that cannot contain your greatness. There is something powerful about no longer explaining yourself to people who benefit from your silence yet pretend you are invisible. There is something healing about redirecting your energy to places where it is nurtured. And in that healing you will realize that the silence you once used as defense becomes the bridge to your growth. For silence is not just absence. Silence is space, space to think, space to grow, space to dream bigger, space to hear your own voice, louder than the noise around you. And when you embrace that, you will no longer fear being unseen, because you will know that you see yourself, and that is enough. So to the one listening right now who has been questioning their worth, because someone acted indifferent, let this be a reminder: you are not invisible. You are not disposable. You are not forgettable. The very same people who act as though you don't matter will carry your silence like a shadow, following them even when they pretend you never existed. But you don't need to carry that weight anymore. You don't need to chase. You don't need to prove. You just need to keep being who you are, shining in the way only you can, and allowing silence to do the talking when words are no longer necessary. And the beauty of it all is that silence teaches you strength, it teaches you patience, it teaches you clarity, it teaches you that not every battle is worth fighting, not every explanation is worth giving, and not every space deserves your presence. It reminds you that walking away is not weakness, but wisdom. It shows you that sometimes, the most powerful statement you can make is no statement at all, because silence lingers, silence echoes, silence makes even the proudest heart bend under the weight of what they lost. And that, my friend, is power. So rise today with your head held high, walk into every room knowing that you matter, even when others act like you don't. Speak when you need to, and be silent when silence will speak louder. Don't waste your breath trying to convince people of your worth. Breathe instead into your dreams, into your goals, into your healing, into your growth. Because the right people, the ones who are meant to walk with you, will never need convincing. They will never act blind to your light. They will never pretend that your presence is insignificant. And when you find those people, you will understand why the others had to act the way they did, because life was simply clearing space for the ones who truly see you. And if you take nothing else from this moment, take this truth with you: your silence is not emptiness, it is power. Your absence is not weakness, it is clarity. And even when they act like you don't matter, you matter more than you will ever know. Keep shining, keep moving, keep growing, and let your silence remind the world that you are not to be overlooked. Because one day the very people who acted like you didn't matter will feel your silence so deeply that it will shake them in ways they never expected. And by then you will be so far ahead, so full, so healed, so thriving, that their realization will be nothing more than an echo of the silence you once gave them. And I want you to imagine this for a moment. Imagine being a candle in a dark room. When you are there, the light fills the space and people see clearly. They move around with confidence. They laugh, they share, they function, because your flame makes it possible. But when you are gone, when the candle is no longer burning, the darkness returns. At first they might shrug, they might say, "It doesn't matter, we don't need the light." They may even act as though the glow was never essential. But wait long enough, and you will hear them stumbling. You will hear them reaching for things that are no longer visible. You will hear them bumping into the walls, unsure of their direction, because the light that once made everything easier is no longer there. And that is what your silence does. It reveals the truth of your importance. When you stop pouring, when you stop burning, when you stop giving, they finally understand what you were offering all along. Your absence makes them see what your presence was quietly holding together. And so many of us have been conditioned to believe that if people don't acknowledge us, we must not matter. But that is the biggest lie. The greatest trap is to think your worth depends on applause. Listen to me carefully. Applause is temporary. Attention is fleeting. But worth is eternal. It is written into you by the very fact of your existence. A tree does not ask for permission to grow. The river does not beg for validation to keep flowing. The stars do not apologize for shining. They exist, and in their existence they carry value. In the same way, you are valuable. Not because someone claps for you, not because someone validates you, but because you are here. Because you are living, breathing, growing, learning, rising. You are valuable because you bring something into this world that no one else can bring. You carry a fingerprint that no one else has. You carry a combination of gifts, strengths, and stories that no one else can duplicate. And even if someone acts like you don't matter, even if they dismiss you, your worth remains untouched. The mistake we often make is staying too long in places where our value is ignored. We linger hoping they will notice, hoping they will finally say, "I see you." But sometimes the lesson is not in waiting for them to see, but in choosing to walk away before you shrink yourself down to nothing. And when you walk away, silence becomes your strength. It is in the silence that you regain perspective. It is in the silence that you hear your own heart again. It is in the silence that you heal from the exhaustion of giving without receiving. It is in the silence that you begin to see who truly deserves your presence and who only took advantage of it. Silence is the ground where clarity grows, and clarity is what allows you to choose differently the next time. Do not misunderstand me. Silence is not about bitterness. It is not about punishing anyone. It is not about making someone else feel pain. Silence is about respect for yourself. It is about saying, "I refuse to argue for my worth. I refuse to beg to be seen. I refuse to exhaust myself in places where my energy is wasted." Silence is dignity. Silence is peace. Silence is wisdom. And the most incredible thing is that even though they may act like you don't matter, they cannot escape the ripple of your absence. They will hear it when they least expect it. They will feel it when they are surrounded by noise but still haunted by quiet. They will remember you in the laughter that doesn't sound as sweet anymore. They will remember you in the comfort that no longer feels the same. They will remember you in the conversations where your perspective is suddenly missing, and they will realize that even though they acted unbothered, they were always touched by you in ways they couldn't admit. Think about this, even water is often taken for granted. People wash their hands, take showers, drink glasses of water without much thought. But let the water stop flowing for one day, and suddenly panic spreads. Suddenly everyone realizes how essential it was. Your presence can be like that. Familiarity makes people forget how valuable something is, until it is no longer accessible. And your silence is the drought that reminds them of the water they once had. You may never hear them say it, you may never see them admit it. But deep inside they know. They feel your silence like a dry throat feels thirst, like a parched land longs for rain. So stop asking yourself, "Why don't they see me?" and start reminding yourself, "I see me." Stop saying, "Why don't they care?" and start affirming, "I care enough about me to stop giving where it is not honored." Stop asking, "Why do I not matter to them?" and start declaring, "I matter to me, I matter to the world, I matter to the mission I carry." Because the truth is, some people will never show you your worth, not because you don't have it, but because acknowledging it would force them to confront truths about themselves. If they admit you matter, they may have to admit they took you for granted. If they admit you matter, they may have to admit they lost something irreplaceable. And some hearts are not brave enough to admit that. But do not confuse their denial with your reality. And I know it hurts, I know what it feels like to pour and pour, only to feel unseen. I know what it feels like to show up for others, to support them in their darkest hours, to believe in them when no one else would, only for them to turn around and act like your loyalty was ordinary, like your kindness was just background noise. It cuts deep, it makes you question yourself. But hear me when I say your love was never wasted. Your kindness was never wasted, your loyalty was never wasted. Every good seed you planted will bear fruit, even if not in the soil you planted it. Sometimes the people you pour into are not the ones who will honor it, but the universe has a way of bringing that love back to you, multiplied through others, through opportunities, through doors you never expected to open. So don't stop being who you are just because someone acted blind. Don't stop giving just because one person failed to appreciate it. Don't stop shining just because someone refused to look. Keep being who you are, but be wise enough to know where to pour and when to step back. And let me tell you something powerful about silence. It creates room for new beginnings. When you stop trying to be heard in the wrong places, you suddenly realize how much space you have to grow in the right places. When you stop exhausting yourself explaining your worth, you suddenly discover how much energy you have to invest in your dreams, in your goals, in your healing. Silence is the reset button. It gives you back the strength you once spent on convincing others, And with that strength you rise, with that strength you build, with that strength you create a life where you are no longer waiting for someone else to see you, because you have already seen yourself. Never forget that the people who act like you don't matter are not your judges. They do not hold your destiny in their hands. They do not determine the value of your soul. Their blindness is not your burden. Their indifference is not your sentence. The Creator, the universe, life itself, already placed in you everything you need to matter. You matter because you breathe. You matter because you love. You matter because you exist. And the sooner you embrace that, the sooner you will realize that their silence does not define you, but your silence can redefine them. And here is something else. One day, long after you have chosen peace, long after you have moved forward, long after you have healed, they will remember. They will sit in quiet moments and replay your laughter in their mind. They will recall your presence when they face challenges, and wish you were there. They will scroll through old messages, old photos, old memories, and feel the ache of your absence. They will feel your silence in their bones, and by then you will not even need to be there. You will be too busy thriving, too busy shining, too busy building the life that once felt impossible when you were pouring into the wrong places. Their realization will come too late, and that is not your concern anymore. Your concern is to keep moving forward, to keep believing in yourself, to keep rising higher than their recognition. So let this be your affirmation. I matter even when others act like I don't. I matter because my silence carries weight. I matter because my absence teaches lessons. I matter because I am not defined by their blindness. I matter because I am light, and even when someone closes their eyes, the sun does not stop shining. And with every step you take from today, let that truth anchor you. Walk boldly, walk confidently, walk with peace. Know that you are not here to convince anyone. You are here to live fully, to love deeply, to grow endlessly, and to shine brightly. And the next time someone acts like you don't matter, don't argue, don't beg, don't prove. Simply smile, step back, and let silence do the speaking. Because they may act like you don't matter, but when the silence comes, when your presence is no longer there, when the light goes out and the room is dark, they will feel your absence deeper than they ever admitted while you were still around. And that is when they will understand what you always knew: you mattered all along. There is a hidden strength in the quiet spaces of life, in the places where you stop talking and start allowing the silence to carry your truth. And you must understand this deeply. When you choose silence, it is not because you have run out of things to say, it is because you have learned that your presence already speaks louder than words. Many people confuse silence with surrender, but silence is not surrender. It is strategy, it is grace, it is the higher ground. It is the moment when you stop explaining yourself to those who have already decided not to hear you, and you start saving your energy for those who are worthy of receiving it. And the paradox is this: those who act like you don't matter, those who dismiss you, those who brush off your presence as if you are insignificant, are often the very ones who will be unsettled the most by your silence. They will act unshaken, they will carry on with the same indifference, but when they lay down at night, when they are left alone with nothing but their own thoughts, they will replay what they once overlooked. Your silence will sit with them like an uninvited guest, a reminder of the warmth they once ignored, and the value they once dismissed. There is a powerful lesson hidden here for all of us. You cannot force people to see you, but you can always choose to see yourself. You cannot make someone honor your worth, but you can decide to honor it yourself. And when you do, the world adjusts. Opportunities open up where doors were once closed. People enter your life who recognize instantly what others pretended not to see. Blessings flow into your path because you stop pouring them into the wrong spaces. And though the temptation will always exist to prove yourself to those who act blind, you must resist. For the proof of your worth is not in convincing them, but in living fully regardless of them. The best response to indifference is not argument but elevation. You rise, you grow, you thrive, and you let your success, your peace, your joy, and your silence testify on your behalf. It is also important to remember that sometimes people act like you don't matter, not because you are lacking, but because they are limited. They do not have the capacity to value what they do not understand. They do not have the maturity to hold what is rare. They do not have the depth to recognize the treasure before them. And so they pretend it is ordinary. They act like it is replaceable. They convince themselves they do not need it. But deep down, the human heart always knows when it has encountered something real. Even when the mind plays games, even when pride covers the truth, even when ego tries to dismiss, the soul remembers, and it is the memory that your silence awakens. When you withdraw, the soul of the other cannot deny that something has shifted, something is missing, something was once alive in your presence that is no longer there. That absence unsettles them, though they may never confess it to you. But you do not need the confession. You do not need the apology. You do not need the acknowledgement, because you already know your truth. And that is enough. There is freedom in knowing that you do not need to chase closure from anyone. You do not need to beg for explanation. You do not need to wait for them to realize what you gave. Closure is not something they give you. It is something you give yourself. The moment you decide that their blindness does not diminish your brilliance. The moment you decide that their silence does not silence you, but rather amplifies your own inner voice. And in that moment you rise into a version of yourself that no longer fears being unseen. You rise into a version of yourself that shines because shining is what you were born to do, not because someone else decided to notice. And isn't it true that the most beautiful things in life rarely announce themselves with noise? The sunrise does not knock on your door, it simply rises, and the world shifts around it. The flowers do not beg for you to admire them, they simply bloom, and in their blooming they declare their beauty. The stars do not scream to be seen, they simply shine in the vastness of the night, and those who have the eyes to look up notice their wonder. You too do not need to scream to prove your worth, you only need to keep rising, keep blooming, keep shining. Your silence, like the sunrise, will transform the atmosphere without a single word. Your growth, like the flowers, will declare itself without announcement. Your resilience, like the stars, will light up the darkest nights, whether or not anyone bothers to look. And let us talk about resilience for a moment. To be resilient is to continue shining even after being ignored. It is to keep moving even after being dismissed. It is to stand tall in your worth, even after someone tries to make you feel small. Resilience is the strength to say, you may act like I don't matter, but I know I do. You may overlook me, but I refuse to overlook myself. You may dismiss me, but I will not dismiss the gift I carry. And that resilience is what keeps you from falling into despair. It keeps you anchored when the winds of rejection try to sway you. It keeps you steady when the storms of indifference rage around you. And most importantly, it keeps you focused on the fact that your journey is not about their approval, it is about your purpose. Purpose is bigger than recognition. Purpose is deeper than applause. Purpose is more enduring than attention. And the beauty of purpose is that it will always outlive the temporary blindness of others. People may overlook you today, but if you stay true to your purpose, tomorrow will reveal what they failed to see. History is full of names that were once ignored, dismissed or rejected, only to later be celebrated for the very things others ridiculed. Greatness is rarely recognized immediately. Often it takes silence, absence and distance for the truth of your significance to be revealed. And so your task is not to fight for recognition in the moment, but to live with such authenticity and passion, that time itself testifies on your behalf. The silence you choose today will echo into tomorrow as wisdom. It will echo into tomorrow as strength. It will echo into tomorrow as strength. It will echo into tomorrow as clarity. And when you look back, you will realize that silence was never emptiness. It was the soil where your next chapter was planted. In silence you gain the patience to wait for what truly deserves you. In silence you gain the courage to walk away from what dishonors you. In silence you gain the power to stand firmly in your worth without needing anyone else to validate it. And I want you to remember this always. Love yourself enough to let silence speak when words would be wasted. Love yourself enough to walk away when presence is not honored. Love yourself enough to trust that your worth is not diminished because someone acted blind. Love yourself enough to know that even when they act like you don't matter, you do matter. You do matter. You matter to the world, you matter to your dreams, you matter to the people who are waiting to be touched by the gift you carry. Your story is not over because one person could not see you. Your journey does not end because one room failed to honor you. There are still hearts waiting for your kindness, still lives waiting for your impact, still opportunities waiting for your brilliance. Do not let the blindness of a few convince you to dim the light meant to shine for many. And when that day comes, because it will, when they finally feel the weight of your silence, when they finally realize that what they once took for granted cannot be replaced, you will no longer be standing there waiting. You will be too busy rising into new spaces, too busy shining in new rooms, too busy thriving in new seasons. And their realization will be nothing more than an echo of the silence you once offered. By then your silence will have already done its work, not to prove them wrong but to prove you right, to remind you that your worth was never dependent on their recognition in the first place. So carry this truth with you. You are enough even in the silence. You are worthy even when unacknowledged. You are powerful even when underestimated. And every time someone acts like you don't matter, remember that their act is not reality, but your silence is. And your silence will speak louder than any dismissal, echoing in places where words cannot reach, reminding the world, and most importantly reminding you, that you have always mattered, and you always will. And here's something I want you to hold on to with both hands. Life has a way of revealing the truth, even when people try to bury it beneath indifference. You may think your efforts go unnoticed, that your kindness falls into empty space, that your loyalty is swallowed by silence, but truth has a stubborn way of resurfacing. The seeds you plant, even if ignored today, will one day sprout into a forest of remembrance, and those who pretended you did not matter will find themselves standing among trees that whisper your name in the wind. They will try to ignore it, they will try to deny it, but the truth has a voice of its own, and your silence will become the amplifier of that voice. Because you cannot erase presence, you cannot delete impact, you cannot dismiss authenticity forever. Even the loudest act of pretending will eventually be drowned out by the quiet persistence of reality, and reality will always remind them that you mattered all along. But while life handles that part, you have your own work to do. And your work is not to sit in bitterness waiting for the day they realize. Your work is to rise, your work is to heal, your work is to create, to grow, to discover just how much of yourself was waiting to flourish once you stop wasting energy convincing those who acted blind. Your silence is not just about them, it is about you. It is the gift you give yourself when you decide you no longer need to explain your value to people who cannot see it. It is the sanctuary where you find yourself again after giving too much away. It is the reset button that restores your peace and renews your spirit. It is the safe ground where you can plant new dreams without fear of them being trampled. Your silence is your healing. Your silence is your empowerment. Your silence is your liberation. And do not be fooled by those who pretend not to care. Humans are wired for connection. No one is immune to the loss of presence, no matter how much they act detached. They may carry on with laughter. They may surround themselves with distractions. They may even try to convince themselves that your silence is irrelevant. But when the noise fades, when the crowd thins, when the distractions end, the absence hits. It always hits. It's in the small details, the missed encouragement, the missing voice of reason, the unspoken comfort of knowing you were there. These are things they cannot replace, no matter how much they try. And those voids echo your worth louder than any words you could have said. You must also understand that your silence teaches lessons words cannot. Sometimes people don't learn through conversations. They learn through absence. They don't recognize the value of a voice until it is no longer available to them. They don't understand the gift of presence until it has been withdrawn. They don't realize the luxury of access until the doors are quietly closed. And while it is not your responsibility to teach them, your silence often becomes the most powerful teacher. It teaches them about gratitude. It teaches them about appreciation. It teaches them about humility. And whether they acknowledge the lesson or not, it sinks in. And you meanwhile continue moving forward, carrying your lessons too. Lessons of self-respect, lessons of boundaries, lessons of the importance of honoring yourself even when others refuse to. There is also something deeply spiritual about silence. In silence you hear yourself more clearly. In silence you reconnect with your purpose. In silence you listen to the whispers of the universe, reminding you of your path, your strength, your calling. In silence you rise above the noise of opinions, judgments, and dismissals, and you find clarity that no one else can take away. Silence becomes your conversation with life itself, your reminder that you are guided, you are worthy, and you are more than enough. And when you emerge from that silence, you carry a new kind of power. A quiet power that does not need to shout, that does not need to prove, that simply exists and demands recognition by its very presence. Do not let anyone convince you that silence is weakness. Weakness is chasing people who act like they don't care. Weakness is begging to be seen by eyes determined to stay closed. Weakness is shrinking yourself to fit into places that cannot contain you. But silence, that is strength. Silence is the choice to conserve your energy for what truly deserves it. Silence is the confidence to know you don't need to argue your worth. Silence is the courage to walk away when staying would destroy your peace. And silence is the strength to stand tall even when ignored. The weak shout to be heard, but the strong allow silence to carry their truth, knowing that truth does not expire, and value does not vanish just because someone acts blind. And remember this, the world is vast, and not everyone will fail to see you. The ones who acted like you don't matter are not the only people who exist. There are hearts out there waiting to celebrate you. There are spaces that will honor your presence. There are people who will see your silence not as emptiness but as depth, who will hear your voice and know it carries weight, who will experience your presence and treat it as the treasure it is. Do not let the blindness of a few make you believe the world is blind. Do not let the indifference of some make you believe that love, appreciation and recognition are illusions. They exist, they are waiting for you. And the silence you hold now is preparing you for those spaces. And while you wait, while you heal, while you grow, let your silence remind you of your strength. Each time you feel the urge to break it just to prove yourself, pause, breathe. Remember that the urge to explain is born from the fear of being unseen, but the silence you hold is born from the confidence of knowing you are already seen by yourself, by life, by purpose. You do not need to shout into the void, you need only to stand firm in your truth. And when the time is right, the right people, the right opportunities, the right spaces will not require you to prove or argue. They will see you, they will honor you, they will embrace you without hesitation. And there is beauty in that. Beauty in realizing that you were never meant to be everywhere, you were never meant to be everything to everyone, you were never meant to be endlessly poured out into spaces that refuse to value you. Your silence is not rejection, it is redirection. It is life guiding you away from what cannot honor you and toward what will. And if you trust it, if you embrace it, if you lean into it, you will discover that silence was never emptiness, but abundance in disguise. So today let your silence remind you that you are whole, you are enough, you are powerful, you are purposeful. You matter not because someone else says so, not because someone else acts like it, but because you are here, because you are alive, because you carry something only you can carry. And even when others act like you don't matter, trust me, they feel your silence deep. It will linger with them like a shadow, it will echo like a song they can't forget, it will whisper to them in ways they cannot escape. And while they are learning through your absence, you will be thriving through your presence. And that is the true victory, not proving them wrong, but proving yourself right. So rise each day with peace in your heart, and fire in your spirit. Walk boldly into the world without needing applause. Give where it is honored. Withdraw where it is wasted. And let silence be your song when words are no longer worth singing. Because your silence, your presence, your very being is enough. And one day, those who acted like you didn't matter will carry the weight of your silence forever, while you carry the freedom of knowing you mattered all along.